All right, Republican strategist Ford O'Connell sticking around. We're going to shift gears now and talk about the 2016 race for the White House. Gearing up for a tough fight, at least tough words in that fight, with the announcement of Bernie Sanders to the Associated Press last night saying he's running for president. Ford, we're still waiting for all the official paperwork to get filed. We'll stay tuned for that. But we saw today Bernie Sanders take direct aim at the Koch brothers and at Citizens United without mentioning the other guys on the other side of the aisle who donate billions of dollars, like Tom Steyer.
Well, this is the double standard of the Democrats. They talk about getting rid of Citizens United money in politics, but let's be honest, Hillary Clinton's probably going to raise $2 billion, and all the Democrats seem to be taking advantage of it. So for shame, let's get rid of DART money in politics, but until then, give me as much as possible.
Yeah, I don't know how he plans to do this. Sanders says he is not going to have a super PAC. He's not going to go around the country talking to millionaires. If he does really want to have a grassroots campaign with internet donations, how much money do you actually think he could possibly raise?
And he's not going to raise enough. Remember the following equation: no super PAC-y, no Winnie.
Yeah, I know, okay? Not enough to win. Of course, we know that.
That's why I called him a statement candidate.
How much does he need to raise?
There's only so much you can raise at $2,700 minimum for a primary. So guess what? I hope he enjoys going via the van like Rick Santorum did in 2012.
Yeah, well, Rick Santorum, he was hanging on there for a while. Let's talk about Jeb Bush a little bit.
He only had 2 pennies to rub together in the back of a van. Trust me, I watched it. They hated Mitt Romney. They didn't like Rick Santorum.
No, well, okay, it might be different, but he also affected the conversation no matter how much money he had in that van in Iowa. Let's move on. Let's talk about Jeb Bush. He does not seem to be struggling from those same problems that Rick Santorum faced last time around. Jeb Bush expecting to raise the most out of all the Republican candidates. The former governor telling donors in Miami Beach on Sunday that he believes his political action committee had raised more money in 100 days than any other modern Republican political operation. Looks like the Bush family finally has this down pat in terms of fundraising. What do you think the grand total is going to be for Jeb Bush when it's all said and done?
Well, we know that it's over $100 million, and even at over $100 million, that's 70% more than Mitt Romney ever raised in his highest fundraising quarter, and Jeb Bush did it a year earlier. The thing is the money's rolling in for Jeb, but he doesn't have too much mojo in the polls, and he's not getting the endorsements that he'd like. So the money's coming in. The problem is he's flatlining in the polls, and money may not be able to buy Jeb happiness in this primary.
The flatlining in the polls, Ford, is that behind his decision to say things like he supports statehood for Puerto Rico and doubling down on keeping the 11 million illegal immigrants in this country? Is he trying to ruffle some feathers so people talk about him and get his name back up there? I don't know with who, but with some folks.
No, I actually disagree. He's on his own campaign plan, and he's not going to alter it based on what's going on. Understand this is a smart move for him if he becomes a nominee in the general election so he can win Florida. Understand that he wants to expand the primary electorate in Florida, and believe it or not, there's almost as many Puerto Ricans that live in New York and Florida as there are in Puerto Rico. This is a triangulation back to bring in primary voters for him to make his stand in Florida primary, which is a winner-take-all, and if he does that, he'll likely be the nominee.
All right, so give us your prediction. If that scenario plays out, I mean, you see that scenario playing out, he's got all his chips pushed into the middle of the table?
He absolutely does have his chips pushed in the middle of the table. Really, as of today, and I hate to speculate this much, I believe that the ticket will have 2 of the following 3 names: Bush, Rubio, and Walker. The only question is who's sitting on top, who's sitting on bottom. The only thing I know is Jeb Bush will not be the VP.
All right, do you think Rubio would actually accept the VP nomination if Jeb is the guy and your scenario comes to fruition?
He can't accept it for Jeb because they're both from the same state.
Right.
What he can't accept it is from Walker, and if he's the P, then Walker can be the VP. What the Republicans need are 2 groups to win in a general election.
Right.
White working class voters and Hispanics, and they need it in about 7 states because only 7 states are in play.
All right, well, I've often talked about John Kasich as a guy who could be the presidential nomination because a lot of his intangibles. That doesn't really look like to be the case right now. He hinted with starting a race and hasn't really shown his cards as much, but you think John Kasich might be that guy who can really generate a lot of Reagan Democrats to vote for the Republican ticket?
I think he could be the VP. The problem is he isn't going to get anywhere near the grassroots conservatives because they despise him almost as much as Jeb Bush. They think he's a rhino in sheep's clothing, even though he won Ohio by 30 in the midterm elections.
All right, so it will be interesting take. Probably then Scott Walker. If Jeb Bush is the guy, then maybe Scott Walker is your VP nominee. Also, let's talk about Sheldon Adelson.
And that's going to be a really rough room with those 2.
Well, in many ways, it's a lot like Reagan and his father, right?
There you go.
Didn't get along very well, and then they coalesce to see if the party can do the same. Let's talk about Sheldon Adelson as well, the casino magnate. Of course, he wants to sponsor a candidate who is going to be strong for Israel. Adelson's words is the world's 12th richest person. He hasn't made any final decisions yet. Who do you think is going to be his guy? Is it Rubio?
You know, he likes Rubio. He likes foreign policy. He likes those folks who are strong on Israel, but he's also a very free market person. Understand why he's making this statement. Sheldon Adelson is mad at Jeb Bush because Jeb Bush basically sent James Baker to speak at the J Street Partnership, which talks about Israel, and he had unflattering comments, and that's why Adelson is sending a message to Jeb Bush and the rest of the Republican field saying, get in shape. We know you guys support Israel, but I'm not going to back anybody who isn't going to back Israel to the wall.
All right. Sheldon Adelson, again, influential in this election. Ford, O'Connell, great to see you. Miranda's coming back. More to come here on Newsmax Now.